Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's Canada's 150th. That's right, it's July 1st, 2017. Canada Day. So I'm joined here today by Justin. And we're going to be talking about something very Canadian. A video game that's very Canadian. No, not just a video game that was made by a Canadian company, but a video game about Canada. And of course I'm talking about Canada's own equivalent to the Oregon Trail. Cross Country Canada, released for MS-DOS back in 1991. So come on, ladies and gentlemen, on this very special episode of SWPG. Cross Country Canada was released by a company called Edutainment in 1991. Originally for the Apple II, later for Mac OS and MS-DOS, it's an edutainment video game, much in the same sense as Oregon Trail, except the objective here is a bit different. While in Oregon Trail, you're a pioneer family trying to get to the west coast because I guess you want to find gold and make it rich. In Cross Country Canada, you're a truck driver who must pick up materials and items such as snowmobiles, maple syrup, and enriched uranium, and deliver them to places all around the great country of Canada. You start off on a randomized location, though for some reason it normally starts me off in Toronto, and then you gotta travel everywhere, across every province and every territory, all the while making sure you don't crash, you don't stay up too much, and that you don't speed. Now, Cross Country Canada is pretty easy to get started with. You boot it up, and then you get to a menu, you choose how many players, how many items you want to have to deliver, and then off you go. Of course, you get to name your character as well. From there, you get given a directive of what items you need to pick up. From there, you gotta go to the city where you can find that item, and then you gotta deliver it. Across the way, you'll encounter obstacles such as rivers and seas that you'll need to cross via ferry, because you can't cock your 18-wheeler, I guess. And rains, hitchhikers who may either thank you or rob you at gunpoint, among other things. Also along the way, you gotta make sure you eat, fill up your truck when you need to, and know to radio for help whenever you crash. You also have an option to speed, because while your truck goes at a leisurely pace, sometimes you just want to go faster. However, with that comes the risk of either crashing more or being caught by the police and being fined. That's not as bad as you'd think though. Even though you get charged things, you don't have a limited amount of money. Money is more of a score, you know. Furthermore, all the major cities have things that show off things you'd find there. Now, Cross Country Canada is not controlled by a graphic interface. So you have to actually type in physically what you want to do. And it's specific. Very specific. And it doesn't have instructions on what commands do what. You gotta figure it out for yourself. And while the developers say they did that intentionally, and it does come with a bigger sense of accomplishment when you do figure out how to do something, it's still a bit of a chore. Furthermore, the game actually rewards you for wearing a seatbelt in it. At first it just gives you a gentle nod in a kindly Canadian fashion, but then you realize if you get in a wreck, you'll pay significantly less. I guess kind of mirrors real life in that way, doesn't it? It's definitely not as difficult as Oregon Trail. I mean, certainly in a game that's set in 1980s Canada, you won't be dying of dysentery every few minutes, will you? Furthermore, you don't have to guess on what items come from what cities. The game originally shipped with a map, and said map can be found very easily online. It's a very fun game, and while not terribly complex, it does have a sense of adventure. You really feel like you're going on a journey when you start it, especially when you have to start somewhere like, say, Nova Scotia, and pick something up all the way in, say, Alberta. It feels like an adventure. You see all these different terrains and whatnot, with the only limits being that you can't drive south into the US. So, overall, should you play Cross Country Canada? Well, absolutely yes, and I think Justin here would agree as well. While I don't think your enjoyment will last too long, it's definitely a lot of fun for a few hours, and while I can't seem to find an actual physical version of it, probably since most versions of it were sold to schools across Canada, it is free to play online via sources such as the Internet Archive, and it's a lot of fun and definitely worth looking up and playing. It's definitely worth your time, and it's a cool part of Canadian history. So thank you very much for watching. Remember to subscribe and comment down below about your Canada Day memories or what you think about edutainment games or stuff like that. Remember to give this video a like, and I will see you next time.